Listen closely, for what you are about to hear is not for everyone. It is only for you. There is a word hidden in this message, and if you leave too soon, you may miss the very answer your heart has been crying out for. Stay until the end, because heaven may speak to you in the last breath of these words. And as you receive, let your spirit remain open. Share this message, subscribe so you don't miss what is yet to come. And if these words awaken something within you, send a super thanks to help us carry God's voice to many more souls still waiting. The air is shifting. You can feel it in the quiet of your room, in the stillness between your thoughts, even in the way your heart beats faster without knowing why. Something inside you knows that the season you have been waiting for is not just coming, it has arrived. And the words you are about to hear are not ordinary words. They are a gentle whisper from eternity, meant for you at this exact moment. For so long you've been walking through valleys of uncertainty. You've doubted your path, you've questioned your worth, and at times, you've even asked yourself if your prayers have gone unheard. But today, something different is happening. Today, a door is opening that no one can shut. Imagine a child standing on the edge of the ocean for the first time. The waves come rushing in, brushing against their feet. The water feels cold, strange, alive. That child hesitates, wondering if they should step deeper or stay safe on the shore. That child is you. You've been standing at the edge for a long time, hesitant, unsure, waiting for the right sign. And now, the invitation is clear. It's time to step in. Your life hasn't been random. Every moment, the laughter, the heartbreak, the nights of tears, has been shaping something inside of you. What looked like delays were actually preparations. What felt like rejection was protection. Every time you thought you were falling apart, you were being built into something stronger. But now, the season has shifted. You are not the same person you once were. The lessons you carried, the pain you endured, the endurance you built, it has all been forming you for what's about to unfold. And maybe you're thinking, but I still don't feel ready. I still feel weak, still full of flaws. That's the beauty of it. Readiness doesn't come from perfection. Readiness comes from surrender. There's a rhythm to your life, a pattern you couldn't see before. Every closed door, every unanswered question, every night you spent wondering, why me? They were all aligning into this moment. Let me share a story. There was once a young man named Elias. He grew up in a small village, working in the fields from dawn to dusk. His family was poor, and often they had to go to sleep hungry. Every day he dreamed of a better life, but every day looked exactly like the one before it. Same dirt, same tools, same aching back. One evening after a long day of work, Elias sat by the river near his home. He whispered a prayer that he had whispered many times before. God, if there is more for me, show me. If I am meant for something greater, give me a sign. For weeks, nothing happened. No voice from the sky, no miraculous opportunity, just the same hard labor and the same doubts. Until one day, a traveling merchant came through the village. Elias offered to help him carry his goods across the river. Grateful, the merchant offered him a small job in the city. Elias hesitated. He had never left his village before. Fear told him to stay, but something inside of him whispered, "You are ready." He said yes. That one step changed everything. In the city, he learned new skills, met people who believed in him, and discovered gifts he never knew he had. Years later, Elias became a leader who helped rebuild entire communities. Looking back, he realized the long years of waiting weren't wasted. They were shaping him for the very moment when he could finally step forward. That's where you are right now. You've been waiting, you've been praying, you've been wondering if you've been forgotten. But like Elias, you haven't been overlooked. You've been prepared. Every hardship was sandpaper, shaping the edges of your soul. Every unanswered prayer was a seed planted deep in the ground. And now, the soil of your life is ready to bring forth something you've only dreamed about. Think about the times you almost gave up but didn't. Think about the times you kept showing up even when no one noticed. Think about the nights when your tears hit the pillow and you whispered prayers you weren't sure would be answered. Every one of those moments has been gathered, counted, remembered. And here you are, standing on the threshold of something new. This is not the end of your struggle, but it is the beginning of your breakthrough. This is not the end of your questions, but it is the start of your answers. The path ahead of you will not be free of obstacles, but you will carry a strength you never had before. Maybe you feel small compared to the challenges in front of you. Maybe you think the giants in your life are too big, too powerful, too overwhelming. But don't forget, David didn't need a sword or an army to defeat Goliath. He needed courage, faith, and a willingness to step forward when no one else would. And that's the key. The readiness you carry isn't about having everything figured out. It's about having the courage to step forward even when you're still unsure. It's about trusting that God's hand will guide your step, even if you can't see where the path ends. Pause for a moment. Breathe deeply. Can you feel it? That stirring in your spirit, that sense that something is shifting. That's not imagination. That's alignment. That's preparation meeting purpose. There will always be reasons to wait. There will always be excuses that whisper, "Not yet, not today." But waiting forever only keeps you on the shore. Stepping forward, taking that first step, is what leads to the miracle. You are stepping into a season where you will begin to see why you went through what you did. You will see the connections. You will meet the people. You will find the opportunities that were always meant for you. And here's the truth. You don't have to feel ready to be ready. Readiness is not a feeling. It is a decision. You've been carrying doubts, but you are stronger than those doubts. You've been carrying fear, but you are greater than that fear. You've been carrying shame, but you are loved beyond that shame. Listen carefully. Nothing you have gone through will be wasted. Every tear, every scar, every loss, it's all being woven into a story greater than you can imagine. The time has come to let go of the weight of yesterday. Let go of the voices that told you you weren't enough. Let go of the failures that tried to define you. Let go of the fear that tried to paralyze you. Because this moment, right now, is not about what you lost. It's about what you're about to gain. You are stepping into new clarity. You are stepping into fresh strength. You are stepping into divine purpose. So ask yourself, what if the very thing you've been afraid to start is the very thing that will unlock your destiny? What if the risk you've been avoiding is the path to your breakthrough? What if your hesitation has been the only thing holding back the floodgates of blessing waiting for you? Don't wait another moment. Don't hide behind the old excuses. Don't let fear rob you of the promise that is already within reach. Stand tall, lift your eyes, and take that step forward. Because everything that was meant to harm you has only made you stronger. Everything that tried to break you has only made you unshakable. And everything that was withheld from you was only making space for something greater. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be. This is your moment. And when you step into it, heaven itself will move on your behalf. The sun rises the same way every morning, but there comes a day when the light feels different. The same rays that fell on your yesterday now shine with a new intensity, as though the sky itself is declaring, "It's time." You've known the weight of waiting. You've carried the heaviness of unanswered questions, walking through days that felt longer than years. You've wrestled with doubts that whispered, "Maybe it will never happen. Maybe you're not chosen. Maybe you're not enough." But listen closely. The waiting wasn't wasted. The pain wasn't pointless. The silence wasn't abandonment. It was preparation. There's a difference between someone being delayed and someone being developed. You haven't been delayed. You've been developed. You've been stretched, refined, and strengthened for something that cannot be rushed. Think of the archer pulling back his bow. The arrow is drawn further and further backward, and to the arrow, it feels like retreat, like moving away from the target. But the truth is, the greater the pullback, the greater the launch. The resistance, the tension, the waiting. It's what gives the arrow its power. That has been your life. Pulled back, stretched, held in tension. But now, the bowstring is about to release. You've been asking, when will things change? The better question is, am I ready to embrace what's about to change? Because when the door opens, you won't have time to second guess. When the opportunity comes, hesitation will cost you more than failure ever could. This is why your heart has been tested. This is why your patience has been stretched. This is why your faith has been challenged. Because what you are about to carry requires the strength you've been building in the shadows. Let me tell you a story. There was a young woman named Miriam who lived in a coastal town. Her dream was to become a teacher, to pass knowledge on to children who had none. But her family struggled with poverty, and school was a luxury they could not afford. Still, Miriam studied by candlelight, borrowing books, learning everything she could on her own. She worked long hours in the marketplace, selling fruit, just to save coins for her dream. Every day she prayed, "God, let me become someone who can give children what I never had." Years went by. Life wasn't easy. People mocked her dream. Some told her she should stop chasing something impossible. She almost listened, almost. But then one day, a terrible storm hit her town. Homes were destroyed, families displaced. The little schoolhouse where children gathered was gone, swept away by the waves. In that moment, the community turned to Miriam. Why? Because she was the only one who had prepared herself in silence. She was the only one who had knowledge tucked away, the only one who had studied when no one believed in her. With no building, no supplies, and no resources, Miriam gathered the children under a large tree. She began teaching with scraps of paper and chalk she had saved. Day after day, more children came. Soon, parents joined in to help. What began as a dream in her heart became a movement in her community. Years later, that little gathering grew into a school that changed generations. Miriam realized something. She wasn't waiting for the world to recognize her dream. The world was waiting for her to be ready for the dream. That is the truth about you. What you carry inside is not just for you, it's for others. And that's why it had to take time. Because when your moment arrives, it won't just bless your life. It will bless the lives of countless others around you. This is why the delay has been long. Because what you carry is not ordinary. It's weighty. It's significant. So don't mistake the wilderness for wasted time. Don't confuse preparation with punishment. You've been hidden, but only so you can be revealed at the right time. Think of a seed in the ground. For months it seems buried, unseen, forgotten. But under the soil, life is stirring. Roots are forming. Strength is being built in secret. Then one day, the seed breaks through the soil into the sunlight. It looks sudden to the world, but the truth is, it has been growing all along. That's you. What feels sudden to others is the result of quiet growth you've been nurturing for years. You may say, "But I still feel weak." And that's okay. Weakness doesn't disqualify you. It positions you, because power is perfected in weakness. The less you rely on yourself, the more space there is for God's strength to flow through you. You may wonder, but what if I fail? Failure isn't final. Every setback you've endured has been training you in resilience. Failure doesn't define you, it refines you. And maybe the biggest question in your heart is, what if I'm not enough? But listen, being enough has never been the requirement. Being willing has. There's a fire inside of you that has survived storms. It has been dimmed but never extinguished. And now, that fire is about to burn brighter than ever. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a cliff, overlooking a valley. You can see the mountains ahead, tall and intimidating. You can see the sky, wide and limitless. You can feel the wind pressing against your face. That is where you are right now, standing on the edge of destiny. The leap looks terrifying, but the wings you've been growing in silence are stronger than you think. Every challenge that once scared you will now serve you. Every lesson that once broke you will now build you. Every loss that once emptied you will now prepare you to carry more than you imagined. There will be whispers that try to hold you back. Voices that say, "You're not ready. You're not worthy. You'll never make it." But those voices are lies. They are echoes of an old season that has already ended. This is a new season, and in this season, you don't walk in fear, you walk in faith. You don't carry shame, you carry purpose. You don't shrink back, you step forward. You may not see the full picture, but you don't need to. You only need to take the next step. And when you do, the path will unfold before you. Think about Miriam's story. She didn't have a building, she didn't have supplies. All she had was her preparation and her willingness. And that was enough to begin. You don't need everything figured out. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need the approval of everyone around you. You just need to begin. Because readiness is not about perfection. It's about obedience. And here's what you must know. You are stepping into a season where doors will open quickly, where opportunities will appear suddenly, where connections will come unexpectedly. It will feel like acceleration, but it will only be the result of years of unseen preparation. You have been hidden for a reason, and now, the reason is about to be revealed. So lift your head, stand with courage, and take that step. The world has been waiting for what you carry. Heaven has been aligning everything for this moment, and your spirit knows it. That stirring inside you, that restless energy, that sense that something is shifting. It's confirmation. It's time. And as you step forward, you will not be alone. You will be guided, strengthened, and sustained every step of the way. This is the beginning of a story that will not just change your life, it will change the lives of many. So don't hesitate, don't delay, don't look back, step into it. There are moments in life when everything seems ordinary, days that blur into one another, hours that pass without notice. Yet hidden inside those ordinary rhythms is a pulse, a quiet signal that something extraordinary is about to emerge. It often begins with a restlessness you can't explain. You find yourself longing for more, but you can't quite define what more is. You sense a stirring, like the ground beneath your feet is shifting ever so slightly. That's not coincidence. That's not imagination. That's preparation. Every great journey begins with an invisible shift, long before the first visible step. Before the fruit grows, the seed has to break. Before the dawn, the night has to stretch into its darkest hour. You've walked through nights that felt endless. You've sat in silence that felt unbearable. You've carried questions that seemed too heavy to hold. And yet, here you are. You didn't break. You didn't give up. Something inside you, something stronger than your pain, kept you standing. And that is why this moment is so important. Because the very endurance you built in the darkness is the foundation for the light you're stepping into now. But let me take you into a story. There was a boy named Jonah, raised in a small town by the sea. His father was a fisherman, and from a young age, Jonah was taught how to cast nets, row boats, and endure the storms that often came without warning. But Jonah's dream was different. He wanted to become a writer. While his father rose before dawn to fish, Jonah stayed awake at night scribbling poems and stories on scraps of parchment. His father would laugh and say, "Words won't feed you, son, the sea will." Jonah wrestled with guilt. He didn't want to disappoint his family, yet he couldn't silence the fire inside him. So he lived with tension, helping in the boats by day, writing in secret by night. Years went by. Then, one stormy evening, his father's boat was caught in violent waves. Jonah rushed to the shore, heart pounding, watching the darkness swallow the sea. The villagers panicked, unsure how to help. Jonah knew the currents, the winds, the patterns of the waves. His years of working on the boats had trained him. He guided the rescue team with words that were clear, calm, and precise. They found the boat. They saved the crew. His father survived. That night, something shifted. The villagers no longer saw Jonah as a dreamer with foolish words. They saw a leader whose voice carried weight. Soon after, he began writing stories for the children of the village, stories of courage, storms, and survival. His words began shaping generations with hope. Looking back, Jonah realized the nights he spent learning to write and the days he spent learning the sea weren't separate paths. They were preparation for a calling he couldn't see at the time. Your story is much the same. You've lived through seasons that felt contradictory. You've wondered why your life seemed scattered, why your experiences didn't add up. But one day, like Jonah, you'll see that none of it was wasted. Each piece is part of a greater puzzle. The pain you endured has given you compassion. The battles you fought have given you wisdom. The failures you survived have given you resilience. And the waiting you endured has given you perspective. Now, like Jonah standing on the shore, you're beginning to realize that every part of your past has been shaping you for this exact moment. But here's the challenge. Stepping into what you're meant for often requires walking away from the comfort of what you've known. Jonah had to risk disappointing his father to honor the calling in his heart. You too may need to release something familiar, an old pattern, a toxic relationship, a fear you've carried like armor. Because the truth is, destiny rarely comes dressed in comfort. It often arrives disguised as disruption. You may feel unsettled right now, like the life you once fit into no longer feels like home. That's not failure, that's transformation. Caterpillars can't live forever in cocoons, and you can't stay forever in the season you've outgrown. Yes, leaving the old behind is scary. Yes, stepping into the unknown feels risky. But risk is the birthplace of miracles. Think about it. Peter had to step out of the boat to walk on water. Abraham had to leave his homeland without knowing where he was going. Esther had to risk her life to speak up for her people. None of them knew the full picture, but they chose to trust the one guiding them. And that's what you're being invited into now. Not a life of certainty, but a life of trust. Not a path of ease, but a path of purpose. The inner restlessness you feel is not something to ignore. It's not a sign that you're lost. It's a sign that you're being called higher. So ask yourself, what am I clinging to out of fear? What am I avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? What step keeps echoing in my heart, yet I've postponed again and again? Your answers matter because they reveal the threshold you're standing on. And remember, God never calls the qualified. He qualifies the called. That means you don't have to have everything figured out before you begin. You just have to take the first step. Imagine Jonah again. If he had listened to fear, if he had silenced his pen, if he had buried his dreams, the village would have lost not just a writer, but a leader, a voice, a light. In the same way, the world is waiting for what you carry. There are people who will only find hope because of your story. There are lives that will only be touched because of your courage. There are chains that will only be broken because of your obedience. Don't underestimate what's inside of you. Don't minimize the weight of your story. Don't silence the fire in your spirit. Because readiness isn't about having it all together. It's about being willing to step forward in faith, trusting that strength will meet you as you walk. You have walked through the fire and survived. You have endured storms and still stand. You have faced nights of silence and yet continued to believe. That is what makes you ready. Now is not the time to retreat. Now is the time to rise. The world may still see you as ordinary, but heaven knows you are extraordinary. The world may measure your worth by your past, but heaven measures it by your calling. So lift your eyes. The horizon is not far off. The promise is closer than it feels. And when you take that step, when you dare to walk forward, you'll discover that the ground beneath you has been prepared all along. This is your moment. This is your threshold. This is your time to step into what you were made for. And when you do, you will not walk alone. The same hand that guided Jonah, the same strength that lifted Esther, the same power that carried David, it will carry you. So go. Step forward. Begin. The world is waiting for you to rise. There comes a time when silence begins to feel heavy. You've been patient. You've been steady. You've carried burdens without letting anyone see how much they weigh on you. You've smiled when your heart wanted to break. You've kept walking when your legs trembled with exhaustion. But deep down, you've wondered, when will it be my turn? When will the struggles shift? When will the breakthrough arrive? What you don't always see is that even in the silence, there's been movement. Even when nothing seemed to change, everything was being arranged. What felt like waiting was really weaving, a divine alignment happening beyond your sight. Think of the tapestry maker. From the back, the threads look chaotic. Knots, tangles, random lines. But turn it around and suddenly the chaos forms a picture. Your life has felt like the back of the tapestry. Messy, confusing, full of unanswered questions. But heaven sees the front, the masterpiece forming through every thread. You've been asking for clarity, but clarity is often given, not at the beginning, but at the end. Faith is walking forward even when the picture isn't complete. And yet, in the middle of uncertainty, there comes a whisper, a call that says, step forward, trust what you can't see. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man named Samuel who worked as a stonecutter. Day after day, he would strike the same rock with his hammer, over and over, often seeing no change. Villagers mocked him. They asked, "Why do you keep hitting the stone when it refuses to break?" But Samuel understood something they didn't. He knew that with each strike, the pressure inside the stone was building. He knew that, though the surface looked unchanged, the rock was weakening from within. One morning, after hundreds of strikes, he lifted his hammer once more and brought it down. The rock split clean in two. The villagers gasped, thinking that single strike had broken it, but Samuel smiled. "It wasn't the last strike," he said. "It was all of them together." That is your story. You've been striking at doors that refuse to open. You've been pouring effort into things that seemed unmoved. You've wondered if your prayers were hitting a ceiling, if your tears were unnoticed, if your persistence was wasted. But just like Samuel's hammer, every strike mattered. Every prayer, every act of faith, every step forward. The breakthrough isn't coming because of one final effort. It's coming because of all the efforts combined. Nothing has been wasted. Not a single tear, not a single prayer, not a single moment of holding on when you wanted to give up. And here's what you must know. The very stone that resisted you the longest will be the stone that, once broken, reveals the treasure you were meant to find. But here's the challenge. Many people stop striking too soon. They stop just before the stone is ready to split. They walk away from the dream just before it's about to break through. They give up one prayer too early, one step too soon, one moment before the miracle. That's why endurance is everything. Not the loud kind of endurance that everyone notices, but the quiet kind. The one that keeps going when no one is watching. The one that holds on when it doesn't make sense. The one that believes when believing hurts. You've carried that endurance. You've built it through long nights and weary days. And because of that, you are closer than you realize. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture the stone in your own life, the barrier that seems unmovable, the obstacle that refuses to shift. Can you see yourself striking it again? Not out of frustration, but out of faith. Not because you know which strike will break it, but because you know it will break if you don't stop. That's the posture of readiness. Not waiting for life to make it easy, but choosing to keep striking until the impossible becomes possible. Your journey has not been random. It has been building something inside of you that is unshakable. Others might measure readiness by skills or resources, but true readiness is measured by resilience. Think about Samuel again. If he had given up after the first 100 strikes, the rock would have mocked his effort. But because he kept going, the rock became his testimony. In the same way, the very obstacles you face today will one day become the story you tell of how you overcame. And when the breakthrough comes, it won't be small, it won't be ordinary. It will be the kind of shift that makes you look back and say, "Now I see why I had to wait. Now I see why I couldn't give up. Now I see why the silence mattered." But don't miss this. When the stone finally breaks, it will not only change your life, it will change the lives of others. Just like Miriam teaching under the tree, just like Jonah leading with his words, just like Samuel striking the rock, your persistence carries weight beyond yourself. People you may never meet will be touched by your obedience. Generations you may never see will be blessed by your endurance. Your story is bigger than your struggle. So don't grow weary. Don't lose heart. Don't let the silence convince you that nothing is happening. The stone is weakening. The ground is shifting. The tapestry is forming. And soon, what has resisted you the longest will yield the greatest breakthrough. Lift your head. Keep striking. Keep believing. Keep walking. Because the day is closer than you think. And when it comes, it will come suddenly. One moment it will look impossible, and the next moment it will be done. That's the beauty of breakthrough. It doesn't always arrive slowly. It often comes all at once. And when it does, you'll know deep in your soul. Every tear, every prayer, every strike was worth it. This is not the end of your story. This is the unfolding of it. So take courage, strengthen your grip, strike again. The stone will not stand forever. The breakthrough is already on its way. There's a quiet shift happening inside of you. You've been noticing it, subtle at first, but undeniable now. Things you once tolerated no longer fit. The voices that once influenced you no longer carry weight. The old fears that held you back no longer have the same power. It's as though your spirit has outgrown the room it's been living in. And that's exactly what's happening. Growth always creates pressure. Pressure to move. Pressure to expand. Pressure to step into the unfamiliar. Think about it. A bird outgrows its nest before it learns to fly. A tree's roots push through the soil before it reaches upward. A child feels the discomfort of stretching bones before adulthood. Growth never feels easy. It feels disruptive. But disruption is proof that transformation is happening. That's why this season has felt strange for you. You've been sensing that you can't go back to who you once were. You can't shrink into old patterns, old mindsets, old places. Because you're not meant to. You've been prepared for something greater. But stepping into that greater place requires courage. Courage to release the familiar. Courage to walk into the unknown. Courage to trust that what feels risky is the very path that will lead you into purpose. And often, that courage is revealed through choice. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Leah who worked in the fields of her village. She was quiet, often overlooked, but inside her burned a desire to do something more. While others laughed at her dreams, she held on to them silently, like a hidden flame. One day, a terrible drought struck the land. Crops withered, wells dried, families grew desperate. Many people gave up hope, but Leah couldn't let despair win. She remembered a stream far away in the hills, a place she had once visited as a child. It was a long, dangerous journey, and no one in the village wanted to risk it. But Leah felt something stirring in her heart. She couldn't shake the thought. What if the water is still there? What if I'm the one who has to bring it back? She gathered clay jars and began walking toward the hills. The villagers mocked her. "You're wasting your time," they said. "Even if the water is there, you'll never make it back alive." But Leah kept walking. The road was long. The sun was merciless. Her feet blistered, her body weakened, but her determination refused to die. Finally, she reached the hills and found the stream, still flowing, cool and clear. She filled her jars and carried them back, one painful step at a time. When she finally returned to the village, exhausted and trembling, she brought life with her. The water revived the people. It saved families. It renewed hope. From that day on, Leah was no longer overlooked. She was remembered as the woman who had the courage to walk where no one else would. Her story reminds us, often, the breakthrough doesn't come from waiting for someone else. It comes from you choosing to step forward when everyone else holds back. That's the invitation you face now. Not to wait for perfect conditions, not to wait for universal approval, but to take the step that's been pressing on your heart. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, it will feel risky. But remember, comfort never created history. It's courage that shifts destinies. And don't forget this, courage doesn't mean you don't feel fear. Courage means you move forward despite the fear. Leah didn't know if she would survive the journey, but she walked anyway. That's courage. You may be standing in front of your own hills right now. Maybe it's a new opportunity, a conversation you've been avoiding, a calling you've been resisting. And you're thinking, what if I fail? What if I'm not strong enough? What if I can't make it back? But pause. What if you succeed? What if you are strong enough? What if the very thing you're afraid to do is the thing that saves not only you, but others around you? The fear of failure will always whisper louder than the possibility of success. But fear is not your master. Purpose is. And here's the truth. You've already survived worse than what you're afraid of. You've already walked through storms you thought would destroy you. You've already faced nights that felt unbearable, and you came out on the other side. So don't underestimate your resilience. Don't underestimate your endurance. Don't underestimate the strength that's been forged inside of you through fire. You are stronger than you realize, and you are more prepared than you think. Like Leah, your step forward may look small to others, but it will carry life-changing weight. Because when you step into your calling, you don't just change your own life, you shift the atmosphere around you. That's why the battle to hold you back has been so intense. The enemy of your soul isn't fighting you because of where you've been. He's fighting you because of where you're going. But the fight itself is proof of your significance. Resistance only rises against something that matters. So the very struggles you've been facing are not signs of weakness. They're signs that you're close to breakthrough. Have you ever noticed how the strongest winds come just before the storm breaks? How the tension in the air rises before the rain finally falls? That's not just the rhythm of nature, it's the rhythm of life. Pressure comes before release. Struggle comes before victory. Waiting comes before fulfillment. You've been feeling that pressure lately. The weight of unanswered questions. The pull between what you know and what you sense. The restlessness that won't let you stay the same. That's not random. It's not meaningless. It's the sign that something inside of you is shifting, preparing to emerge. Think of a butterfly. Before it can spread its wings, it must wrestle in the cocoon. The struggle isn't punishment, it's preparation. If someone were to cut the cocoon open too early, the butterfly's wings would be weak, unable to fly. The very fight that seems cruel is the fight that builds the strength to soar. That's what you've been walking through. You've been fighting battles no one else sees. You've been pushing against invisible walls, wondering why it feels so hard. But what looks like resistance is actually preparation for your flight. And maybe you're asking, but how do I know if I can really handle what's coming? The truth is, you've already proven it. You've already walked through storms that should have broken you. You've already survived nights that should have crushed you. And yet here you are, still breathing, still standing, still holding on. That's not weakness, that's proof of strength. Strength you didn't even realize you had. Strength that was forged in silence. Let me take you into a story. There was a man named Daniel, a craftsman in a small mountain village. He was known for carving wooden bridges that connected one valley to another. His bridges weren't just practical, they were beautiful, strong, and lasting. But one day, a flood swept through the valley, destroying everything he had built. The villagers were devastated. They said, "Daniel, your bridges are gone. The work of your hands has been washed away." Daniel stood in silence, his heart aching but his spirit steady. He said, "The flood took my bridges, but not my skill. The water washed away my work, but not my hands." He returned to the forest, cut new wood, and began again. Slowly, one beam at a time, one nail at a time, he rebuilt. The villagers watched in awe. His new bridges were stronger than the old ones, designed to withstand even greater storms. Years later, travelers from distant lands came to see Daniel's bridges, and his village prospered like never before. What began as loss became the foundation for something greater. Daniel's story reminds us, your value is not in what you lost, but in what you carry inside. The flood may have taken your bridges, but it didn't take your hands. Life may have knocked you down, but it didn't destroy your spirit. The storms may have torn through your plans, but they couldn't erase your purpose. And maybe that's where you are right now, looking at ruins, wondering if you can ever rebuild, wondering if too much time has passed, if too much has been lost, if too much damage has been done. But hear this clearly: what you carry inside is greater than what you lost. The flood didn't erase your future, it prepared you for a stronger one. Don't measure your destiny by the ruins of your past. Measure it by the strength that still beats in your chest. Daniel could have given up. He could have said, "It's over, I can't do it again." But he chose to believe that his skills still had value, that his hands still had purpose, that his story wasn't finished. And the same is true for you. What you thought was the end was only a beginning. What you thought was destruction was really construction. What you thought was loss was really preparation. You may have scars, but scars aren't signs of defeat. They're signs that you survived. You may have broken pieces, but even broken pieces can be rebuilt into something beautiful. The question is not, can you go back? The question is, will you go forward? Because you're not meant to return to the old bridges. You're meant to build new ones, stronger, wiser, lasting. So don't despise the flood. Don't curse the storm. Don't regret the fight. Because everything that tried to break you has only proven that you cannot be broken. And here's the truth: what's ahead of you will not look like what's behind you. The future waiting for you is not a copy of the past. It's an entirely new creation. So lift your head, strengthen your grip, begin again. The world needs what you carry: your village, your family, your community. Someone is waiting on the bridge only you can build. And when you step into that work, you'll realize the flood didn't take your future. It prepared it. So don't stop here. Don't stay stuck in the ruins. Don't believe the lie that it's too late. It's not too late. It's right on time. And this time, you won't just build bridges, you'll build legacies. There's something undeniable stirring in the air around you. You can feel it, not with your hands, not with your eyes, but deep in your spirit. It's that quiet awareness that the ground beneath you is shifting, that the walls that once confined you can no longer hold you, that the ceiling above you is about to break open. And yet, this is also the moment when doubt tries to speak the loudest. What if you're not ready? What if you step forward and fail? What if everything you've carried crumbles the moment you take a risk? But pause here. Think carefully. Doubt doesn't rise where there's nothing worth fearing. Fear doesn't fight where there's nothing worth protecting. The very fact that you feel such resistance is proof that you're on the edge of something significant. The greatest breakthroughs are always guarded by the loudest doubts. You've been walking through a season where it felt like everything was testing you: your patience, your resilience, your trust. And though you may not have realized it, every test has been preparing you to step into something you couldn't carry before. Think of fire. Fire destroys what is weak, but it refines what is strong. Gold doesn't fear the flame because the flame only purifies it. In the same way, the fire you've walked through hasn't burned you, it's refined you. And now, you're stepping out not as the same person who went in, but as someone stronger, wiser, and unshakable. Let me take you into a story. There was a young shepherd named Isaac. He wasn't strong like the warriors in his village. He wasn't wealthy like the merchants in the market. All he had were his sheep, his staff, and his quiet songs that he would sing under the stars. One year, a famine struck the land. Crops withered, rivers dried, and the people grew desperate. Raiders began attacking the village, stealing food and destroying what little was left. The warriors fought bravely, but they were few in number, and the enemy was many. One night, while tending his sheep, Isaac felt something stir in his heart. A thought came to him. What if the raiders aren't invincible? What if there's a way to protect the village without fighting them head-on? He began studying the patterns of the raiders. He noticed they always came by the same path, under the cover of darkness. He realized that if fires were lit along the ridges at the right time, it would look like a massive army was waiting. With trembling hands, Isaac shared his idea with the elders. They laughed at first. What could a shepherd know of battle? But desperation has a way of making people listen. Finally, they agreed. The next raid, Isaac and a few villagers climbed the hills and lit fires across the ridge. When the raiders approached and saw the flames stretching across the horizon, they panicked. They believed the village had gathered an army too large to fight. They turned and fled. The village was saved, not by a sword, not by wealth, not by power, but by the courage and wisdom of a shepherd who dared to believe his voice mattered. Isaac's story reminds us of something vital. You don't need to be the strongest, the wealthiest, or the most recognized to make an impact. You only need to be willing to see differently, willing to step forward, willing to act when others hesitate. And that's where you are now. You've been underestimating yourself because you don't look like what the world calls qualified. You don't have the same resources, the same connections, the same recognition. But what you do have is vision, endurance, and courage. And that's enough. The world has always been changed by people who looked too ordinary to matter, until they stepped forward. The question isn't whether you're enough. The question is whether you'll act with what you already carry. You see, you don't need to wait for some grand moment of certainty. Certainty never comes before the step. It comes after. Faith isn't the absence of risk. It's the decision to walk forward in spite of risk. Like Isaac lighting fires on the ridge, you may feel small. Your step may feel insignificant. But don't underestimate the ripple effect of courage. One small act of obedience can shift entire generations. So don't let doubt convince you to stay silent. Don't let fear keep you from rising. Don't let hesitation rob you of the miracle waiting on the other side of your step. This is the season when you discover that what looked like weakness was actually strength in disguise. That what looked like obscurity was actually preparation. That what looked like delay was actually divine timing. You've been under the stars long enough. You've been in the shadows long enough. You've been questioning yourself long enough. It's time to rise. It's time to light the fires. It's time to believe that your voice, your idea, your courage matters. And when you do, you'll see something remarkable. The enemies that once terrified you will scatter. The obstacles that once looked impossible will crumble. The fears that once paralyzed you will fade. Not because you suddenly became stronger than the world, but because you finally realized you already carried what the world couldn't take away. This is not the moment to shrink. This is the moment to shine. And when you step forward, not only will your life be changed, but others will be saved because of your courage. Just like Isaac's village was saved because he dared to believe. So lift your head, stand tall, and light the fire. The night may be dark, but your courage is brighter. And that light will change everything. Every great turning point begins with a whisper inside. It doesn't arrive with trumpets or fanfare. It comes as a quiet nudge, a stirring that says, "You can't stay here any longer." You've been feeling that nudge. The places that once felt comfortable now feel too small. The routines that once made sense now feel empty. The conversations that once filled you now leave you restless. That's not a sign of failure. That's a sign of growth. Think of an eagle. When it's time for her young to fly, she doesn't let them stay in the nest. She begins to stir the nest, removing the soft feathers and exposing the thorns underneath. What once felt safe suddenly feels uncomfortable. The eaglets squirm, wondering why the place that once felt secure now feels painful. But it's not cruelty, it's preparation. The mother knows they'll never spread their wings if they never leave the nest. That's what's happening in your life. The discomfort you feel is not punishment, it's preparation. The pain of leaving is the birthplace of flying. And here's the truth. If you don't leave the nest willingly, life will push you out. Not to destroy you, but to teach you you can fly. Let me take you into a story. There was a man named Adrian who worked as a blacksmith in a bustling town. He was skilled, dependable, but unremarkable. People respected him, but no one expected greatness from him. He lived quietly, content with his small forge. One day, a fire broke out in the heart of the town. Flames spread quickly, consuming homes and shops. The people panicked, running for their lives. But in the chaos, Adrian noticed something. children trapped inside a burning building. Fear gripped him. He wasn't a warrior, he wasn't a leader, he was just a blacksmith. But in that moment, something inside him whispered, "If you don't act, who will?" Adrian grabbed a heavy beam, smashed through the doors and ran inside. The heat was unbearable, the smoke choking, but he pressed on. One by one, he carried the children out, collapsing on the street as the building crumbled behind him. The town erupted in gratitude. People looked at Adrian differently now. He wasn't just a blacksmith anymore. He was a savior, a man who found courage when it mattered most. Later, when asked what gave him the strength, Adrian said, "I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel brave. I just knew I couldn't stay still." That's the lesson. Readiness doesn't always feel like confidence. Sometimes it feels like trembling hands, pounding heart, and a choice to move anyway. And maybe that's where you are right now. You don't feel ready. You don't feel strong. You don't feel brave. But readiness isn't about how you feel. It's about what you decide. Adrian could have waited for the soldiers. He could have stayed in the safety of the crowd. But if he had, children would have died. The miracle happened because he moved. And there are miracles waiting on the other side of your movement. People you don't even know are depending on your courage. Lives you can't yet see are connected to your obedience. Your step forward may look small to you, but it carries eternal weight. That's why the nest is stirring. That's why the comfort is fading. That's why you can't go back to who you once were. Because you weren't meant to stay hidden. You were meant to rise. So don't despise the discomfort. Don't fight the restlessness. Don't fear the push. It's not meant to harm you. It's meant to release you. And when you spread your wings, you'll realize something powerful. You were never as weak as you thought. You were never as unqualified as you believed. You were never as small as you feared. You were always meant to fly. So rise, step out, take the leap, because the fire will not consume you. The storm will not destroy you. The fall will not break you. You are stronger than you know, braver than you believe, and more ready than you realize. And when you look back, you'll see that the pain of leaving the nest was worth it, because it wasn't the end of safety, it was the beginning of flight. There's a moment in every journey when the weight feels unbearable, when the battle stretches longer than you imagined, when the silence feels louder than any answer, when your strength feels too thin to carry you another step. That's the breaking point. And yet, hidden inside the breaking point is the birthplace of breakthrough, because it's in that moment, when you believe you can't go on, that something greater than you rises within you. You've been walking through pressure that no one else fully understands. You've smiled while carrying burdens no one else can see. You've kept standing when everything in you wanted to fall. And you wonder, why does it have to be this hard? But hear this, if the mountain in front of you feels impossible, it's because the view from the top is greater than you can imagine. If the storm feels unrelenting, it's because the harvest on the other side is worth the fight. Pressure is always greatest, closest to the promise. Let me tell you a story. There was once a runner named Elias who dreamed of competing in the great city games. He trained every day, running through fields, across rivers, up steep hills, but his village was small, and few believed he could ever compete against the trained athletes of the cities. Years passed. Elias entered local races. Sometimes he won, sometimes he stumbled. He carried scars on his legs, blisters on his feet, and doubt in his heart. Still, he kept training. Finally, the day came when he stood on the starting line of the city's greatest race. The stadium roared with thousands of voices. His heart pounded. He looked to his left and right, seasoned runners, stronger and faster than he'd ever faced. When the race began, Elias pushed forward with all he had. But halfway through, his legs burned, his chest ached, and his mind screamed, "You can't finish. You're too far behind. Give up." Something inside him wanted to stop, but then he remembered every morning he had risen before dawn, every blister, every fall, every mile he had run when no one was watching, and he whispered to himself, "I didn't come this far to quit." He pressed on, step by step, Breath by breath, he pushed past the pain. He didn't finish first, but he finished. And when he crossed the line, the crowd erupted, not because he won, but because he refused to stop. That day, Elias realized something powerful. The victory was not in being the fastest. The victory was in finishing the race. That's where you are now. You may feel behind. You may feel weak. You may feel like you don't have the strength to keep running. But the true victory isn't about being first. It's about refusing to quit. The enemy wants you to believe you're too late, that your dream has passed, that your chance is gone. But that's a lie, because as long as you're still breathing, your race is still alive. And here's the truth. You're closer than you think, closer to the finish line, closer to the breakthrough, closer to the promise. Don't let exhaustion convince you to stop. Don't let doubt steal what persistence can win. Don't let the weight of the moment blind you to the reward waiting at the end. Remember Elias. He didn't look like the strongest. He didn't finish first. But he discovered that the strength to keep going was greater than the pain trying to stop him. And you have that same strength inside of you. The breaking point is not where your story ends. It's where it shifts. So breathe deep, straighten your shoulders, take the next step, because the finish line isn't far. And when you cross it, you'll look back and realize it was worth every tear, every scar, every battle. This is not the time to quit. This is the time to press on. The crowd of heaven is watching. The promise is waiting. The breakthrough is near. Keep running, keep believing, keep moving, because the race is not over and the story is not finished. There's something sacred about endings. They're not just closures, they're doorways. What looks like the final chapter is often the beginning of a new story. And right now, you're standing at such a threshold. You've walked through fire and rain. You've carried burdens few could see. You've endured nights that felt longer than years. And yet, every step has brought you here. Not by accident, not by chance, but by design. This is not the end of your journey. This is the unveiling of it. Think back. Every story we've walked through together. Miriam, who taught children under a tree. Jonah, who became a leader with his words. Samuel striking stone after stone. Leah carrying jars of water. Daniel rebuilding his bridges. Isaac lighting fires on the ridge. Adrian rushing into the flames. Elias finishing his race. Each one was ordinary until a moment demanded courage. Each one could have chosen to stay hidden, silent, or safe, but they didn't. And neither can you. Because this moment, the one you are living right now, isn't just about you. It's about those who will find hope through your obedience. It's about the lives connected to your courage, the stories connected to your step, the generations connected to your yes. It may feel overwhelming. It may feel too heavy. But here's the truth. The weight you carry has already built the strength to sustain you. The battles you've fought have already forged resilience in you. The tears you've cried have already watered the soil for a harvest you're about to see. Let me give you one last story. There was a farmer named Caleb. He had a small plot of land, dry and rocky, where nothing seemed to grow. Season after season, he sowed seeds, and season after season, the ground gave little in return. His neighbors laughed. They said, "Why waste your time? The soil is too poor. Nothing good can grow here." But Caleb refused to quit. Every morning he rose with the sun. He cleared rocks. He tilled the soil. He watered when water was scarce. And though the harvest was small, he kept sowing. One year, a great famine struck the land. Fields that once overflowed with crops now lay barren. The people were desperate, searching for food. But something strange happened on Caleb's land. The soil that had resisted him for years had slowly been transformed by his persistence. The rocks he removed, the care he gave, the seeds he refused to stop planting, all of it had prepared the ground. And when the rains finally came, his field burst into life. The very land everyone had mocked became the only land that fed the village. Caleb's persistence saved not only his family, but his entire community. That's your story. The ground of your life may have looked barren for years. The seeds you sowed may have looked wasted. But nothing has been wasted. Every prayer, every act of faith, every tear, every step, it has been transforming your soil. And when the rain of breakthrough falls, your field will burst into life. What once mocked you will marvel at you. What once looked barren will become abundant. This is why you couldn't give up. This is why you had to keep sowing. Because the harvest isn't just for you, it's for others. Your persistence will feed hungry hearts. Your faith will water dry places. Your obedience will shift generations. So don't despise the barren seasons. Don't regret the waiting. Don't curse the struggle. Because all of it has been preparing your soil for this harvest. And now you are ready. Ready to step into purpose. Ready to carry what once felt impossible. Ready to rise into what you were created for. Look at your life, not as a collection of broken pieces, but as a masterpiece in progress. Look at your scars, not as signs of weakness, but as symbols of survival. Look at your past, not as wasted years, but as the foundation for a future filled with promise. And when doubt tries to, you can't do it. Remember Miriam, Jonah, Samuel, Leah, Daniel, Isaac, Adrian, Elias, Caleb. Ordinary people who discovered extraordinary strength when they dared to step forward. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too far gone. You are exactly where you need to be. So, breathe deep, lift your eyes, take the step. Because this is not the end, this is the beginning. And as you rise, as you walk, as you carry your courage into the world, remember this: you were prepared for this moment. You were shaped for this calling. You were chosen for this path. And the world is waiting for the harvest only you can bring. So go, step forward, rise into destiny, live the story you were made to live, because you are ready now.